This is Studio 809.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Outdoors Hiking Bob podcast. I'm your host, Hiking Bob Falcone. Welcome to the podcast. You can find me at hikingbob.com, where you can find links to my social media, my photography website, all the other podcasts we've done. And you can also find on there a link where you can send me an email or subscribe to my newsletter or do both. And if you have suggestions for people to have on the podcast or topics to cover or anything you want to know or just simple questions for Kevin or I, you can do that at hikingbob.com. We do have some suggestions that we've gotten in the last couple of weeks. I am working on those, and thank you for those. They may or may not work out, so if you send a suggestion and you never hear it come up, it's probably, especially if it's for a guest, it may be because we couldn't schedule it, or, you know, sometimes not everybody's interested in being in front of a microphone and talking about themselves or what they do, and that's okay. I get that. One thing we definitely do not do is pester people or push people to be an honor. This isn't 60 Minutes or To Catch a Predator or anything like that. We're not going to make anybody do anything they don't want to do. But so if you send suggestions and it doesn't happen, more than likely it's because they just were not, the people you suggested were not interested in doing it. But we do try to reach out to everybody who you've suggested. So thank you for doing that, and keep doing it. Keep sending us suggestions. Joining me today, and you probably heard in the background there, is my co-host, Wild Westendorf.
Hey everyone, it's Kevin Wild Westendorf here, and you can find me on Facebook and Instagram at Wild Westendorf, and you can find me on my website, which is wildwestendorf.wordpress.com. I swear, eventually I'm going to get back to having like my own domain name. As you probably know, it's been a bit of a crazy year, so my focus has been elsewhere.
With Kevin, with job issues and health issues and whatever else, Kevin. But you're here. Kevin and I are actually in the same place. We haven't seen each other in about 2 months other than on Zoom once or twice. And I had a whole bunch of interviews. But Kevin, glad to have you back here at the homestead in front of the microphone. And but good to hear that you're getting back on your feet and everything is going well. And you should have an update on your medical stuff here pretty soon. I think people are interested because we've talked about it here. But
yeah. So I had some tests last week. So I will find out more about that soon. I'm assuming, like I joked with Bob earlier, I'm assuming because I haven't heard anything yet that it's good news.
Yeah.
Technically, may or may not follow the rules, but I'm technically allowed to hike again in June. I'm not saying I will follow that, but I'm just being on the safe side. It's best if I follow the doctor's orders, though.
I'm thinking, and I don't want to go into this too much, it's your health issues, but one of the things I suggested, because my years as an EMT and seen a lot of stuff, it was probably a one-off incident that occurred because of some kind of underlying medical condition. It seems like your doctor seemed to be along the same lines, thinking the same thing, that this was probably something. Sorry about that. Hang on one second here. Something that just happened as a one-off kind of an incident, which I saw happen a lot.
Yeah, and that's what my doctor is thinking too. It's just sometimes you have a freak seizure.
Right. Probably because of something underlying, something else going on.
Yeah, and I have a good idea of why I may have had mine, and just some changes to my lifestyle, like diet and such.
And being asked to be on a podcast all the time.
Yeah. Oh, it's such a strain, yeah. Oh, to talk about hiking. Oh man.
Oh God, it's terrible.
There's so much work.
Oh, the stress. I told Kevin that you're in bad shape when your doctor calls. You said there's an ambulance pulling up out front. You probably need to get in it. That's not a good sign. If he hasn't told you that, you're probably gonna be okay. Yeah.
Yep, I think so. So I feel like it's looking up from here. It was just a scary episode, and I am moving on from it. So I feel like that's the path that I'm on in general. So I'm feeling great about it.
Good. Well, you look good. Sounds good. Everything's going good for you. So life is good. So hopefully everybody out there is also doing well. And the weather's getting warm, although I'll tell you what, the last couple of days, Kevin, that wind.
Oh, the wind, yeah.
Was, I went hiking today. We're recording this the day before you're recording on Tuesday. And it was 5 days since the last time I hiked. Now, I've had some stuff. I was away for a couple of months, so a lot of catching up on things around the house. But there were a couple of days I wanted to go hiking, and the wind was just, we've all gone hiking when it's a little windy. But the wind was so obnoxious and so strong that, you're either going to get sandblasted or you're going to get hit by a flying
Yeah.
branch or a flying trash can or, in my case, a flying dog, or, something like that, we've talked about this, Kevin. Anybody can go hiking in any kind of weather. I think everybody listens to this, and you and I have all the equipment in the world that we need to go hiking in anything. But that should be like just because you end up where you have to be out for some reason. When it's just not fun, when you know that the wind is 60 miles an hour and you're not going to be able to hear squat and you're going to be pushing against the wind and who knows what's going to hit you in the head, it's just not fun. So what's the point of going out there?
Yeah, because I can have all the gear in the world to hike when it's 10 degrees outside, but when it's that windy, you're like, I'm talking just walking to my car and like I'm having to regain balance because the wind is so strong. Like
Right.
it's not fun.
Yeah, there's just no point in it. So I finally did go hiking again, and we had a great time. A couple of us went hiking, just a short 3.5 miler in Palmer Park. It was a nice day. Still a little windy, but nothing like it'd been over the past weekend, where it was just ugly windy, just horrible. So nothing like that. So fortunately, hopefully the weather's going to get better. It's supposed to be sub-freezing temperatures tonight.
Oh, that's right.
Remember, you're never safe around here till at least Mother's Day, which I believe is this coming weekend.
It's this upcoming weekend. Yeah.
So you're never safe until Mother's Day at the earliest. Memorial Day to be really safe. So we still have a little bit of time, and Mother Nature usually gets in a last I'll show you who's boss kind of a thing, and it's coming with this weather coming through here in the next day or so. So just be careful out there, and as always, be prepared. And you know what? It's not life or death. If the weather's crappy and you know you're going to be miserable going out hiking, don't go. Go the next day. Go twice as far the next time you go out, and you'll be fine.
Yeah.
It's all good. Kevin, there's a lot of things going on in the area with master plans and parks. And, it's spring. Everything kicks back in. Winter's over. Trail work getting done in various places, all kinds of work. There's some projects being done in North Cheyenne Canyon. We just got done the master plan process at Blodgett Open Space. That plan has been approved by the TOPS Working Committee that I chair and the Parks Advisory Board. There is an appeal of that, which is going to happen, be heard by City Council in June. For various reasons, people are not happy with it. That's fine. They have the right to appeal to City Council. That'll be heard in June. We'll see what happens there. It remains to be seen what happens there. But in any case, so that's been done. So the next one the city is working on, and it kicked off right away as that one stopped, was the Fishers Canyon master plan.
Yep.
Now, Fishers Canyon is general. I'll describe this very generally, but you'll want to check out the website for the specifics. But Fishers Canyon is generally regarded as being the east face of Cheyenne Mountain, above Broadmoor Bluffs, and between Cheyenne Mountain State Park and the Cheyenne Mountain Zoo.
Okay.
That's very general, though. I mean, it's not super specific, and it's a little more complicated. But generally speaking, when you're looking at the east side of Cheyenne Mountain, that's where it is. So if you know where the state park is, you know roughly where the zoo is, a swath of land in between are going up and over the peak. So some of it goes up to the peak, not the tower. So it's a little to the right of the towers as you're looking at it. Goes around there. In any case, beautiful purchase that we made at the TOPS program 3 years ago. Anyway, recently. And we're getting started on a master plan process. It's an open space, not a park. So it's not going to have things like playgrounds and stuff like that. It's going to have trails, and that's about it. Parking lot trails, maybe an informational kiosk. Well, we'll have informational kiosks, trail signs. Going to keep a lot of its current character. It's very rugged, very steep going up there to the peak from up there to the top of Cheyenne Mountain. Anyway, that master plan process is in progress. They've already had their first public meeting. Right now, they are taking the second community survey, and then they will have another public, whether an open house or a public meeting or some kind of another opportunity for city residents to meet directly with city park staff in regard to this master plan later on. I think sometime probably in June, maybe July. The date's not firm yet. It depends on the survey and how much stuff they have to go through and what they look at there. So there's a lot of that going on. The last master plan project for Blodgett Open Space took over a year. I don't foresee this one taking as long. It should be done a lot quicker because the Blodgett master plan was having to be done because there was already a master plan in place for Blodgett, but Blodgett was bought originally as one parcel, then another piece was added, then another piece was added. So obviously the first one, which only covered a third of the property, wasn't adequate to cover all the property.
Oh, okay.
Makes sense?
Yeah.
And there were differences. We were trying to master plan an existing developed part of it, plus two pieces that were, one was partially developed and one's not developed yet. So obviously that all had to be evened out. This piece at Fisher's Canyon is completely undeveloped because it's been private property till the city bought it recently. So that's been completely undeveloped. It was going to be some houses in there. The developer backed out, came to the city, asked the city to buy it. We went out there and looked at it and decided it would be a smart purchase. There's eventually going to be the Chamberlain Trail that's going to go through there, and eventually you'll be able to ride or hike from Cheyenne Mountain State Park all the way to the edge of the Air Force Academy. There are some pieces in between that aren't finished yet. They may be on roads, but eventually that will be a thing that you can do pretty seamlessly. And in some places without ever touching a road, either going under a road or over a road or something like that. So pretty exciting stuff happening there. So in any case, I'll have a link in the show notes. And there was a link in recent newsletters that I put out. By the way, you should, if you're not already, subscribe to the newsletter because I usually cover a lot more stuff in there that we don't get a chance to talk about on here. But in any case, that's happening now. So if you're interested in that piece of land or you want to know more about it or see where it is, they have great maps. They sent a drone up, took some aerial pictures, and overlaid the aerial pictures with the specific areas that we actually own up there. The other nice thing is this will link into the top of mountain trails on Cheyenne Mountain State Park.
Oh,
so
okay.
that you'll be able to hike up one side of Cheyenne Mountain and down the other side. Whether you start on Old Stage Road and come up on the McNeil Trail.
Okay, yeah.
Which is technically not an official Forest Service trail, even though it's been there for like 100 years. That's being worked on, I think, to be adopted as an official trail. Hike up the McNeil Trail, hook into the top of mountain trails on Cheyenne Mountain, and come down the Dixon Trail and end up in Cheyenne Mountain State Park, or vice versa.
Cool.
So
okay.
that's actually one of the things that's being proposed. So there's a lot of cool stuff happening with this project, which is why we decided to make the purchase. And, City Council went along and said, yeah, that makes perfect sense. And it's the beauty of having this TOPS fund, which is funded by a special sales tax, because it's very tightly defined what it can be used for. So it can't be rated by City Council for other purposes or anything like that. It's money that we get, and it's about $8 million a year that goes into this fund. And this is the type of things that it does, is buy this land. And then it'll also be used to build the trails and build the trailhead and build other parts that, we'll need to make this open up. So the plan is going on. Hopefully in the next couple of years, you'll start to gradually see some things coming up. And all this stuff takes time. And one of the limiting factors is, of course, is the manpower. There's only so many people work in the Parks Department, so they can only do so many things in a year. And there's other priorities and things that have already gotten started that have to be finished. So it's got to take a little bit of time. Be patient. But know that we've got the land. The beauty of this, too, and I should mention one more thing because it's come up in some conversation I had, since the land was bought with the TOPS program sales tax, the city can't get rid of it. They can't decide to give it to somebody. Okay. The only way they can do it is they have to go back and ask the voters if they can get rid of a piece of property. That's never happened. And I will tell you that nobody in the TOPS program, nobody in the Parks Department ever wants to get rid of a piece of TOPS property. That's going on right now. The other thing that's going on right now is over in El Paso County Parks, is they're working on the master plan for Jones Park. Now, if that sounds familiar but you're not sure where it is, that's okay, because it's basically a square piece of land that the county owns in the middle of nowhere.
Mm-hmm.
So generally speaking, if you're familiar with the popular Seven Bridges Trail, if you take the Seven Bridges Trail, which comes out of North Cheyenne Canyon Park, take it past the 7th bridge and just keep going up, up, and up, you come across the creek, and then you kind of make a right on the old pipeline trail. You end up crossing the upper parts of Bear Creek, and there is what used to be a little town up there.
Yep.
Called Jones Park, and there's still a couple of cabins up there. Now, I don't recall if it ever got as big as it was supposed to, but there's a lot of history. There's some markers up there. That piece of land was Forest Service land, and then I think the city had it for some time, and nobody really wanted to deal with it. And the county, it was deeded over to the county. It's at the top of Bear. So basically, you go up Seven Bridges Trail, and there's Mount Kineo and Mount Buckhorn on one side, and then on the other side is Bear Creek and Bear Creek Canyon and Section 16 and Red Rock Canyon open space and all that kind of stuff there. So you go up there, and you can actually go up one side, down the other. You can do a big loop all the way through there, go up around Mount Kineo and stuff. And so on the other side of that is Bear Creek, which is, if people have been here for a while, I think we've talked about it a little bit, been a topic conversation. It was where this greenback cutthroat trout exist. The only genetically pure ones in the world were found in that creek. Now, they were not originally there. They were brought there 100 years ago from a guy who owned a cabin in there or a lodge, and he brought them in for people to catch. But other trout came into the state and killed off most of this specific trout. The only place they ever exist is here. There was some concern that the crumbly granite and the trails above the creek were falling into the creek, filling up the creek and choking out the trout. Fish and Wildlife Service declared it an endangered species, and something had to be done to protect them. So trails were rerouted, some trails were closed, all kinds of things were done to protect that creek and to protect the trout. Every year they go in there, CPW goes in there, harvest the eggs out of the trout, bring them to a hatchery, and they're slowly bringing the species back. But in the wild, it's the only place that they actually exist. They're being farmed out in other high-altitude lakes and stuff like that. Still an endangered species. So Jones Park, the trails up to Jones Park were rerouted. There used to be a trail that went right up next to the creek. Mm-hmm. It still does for a certain area, but it's above the creek. Then it gets up there, it deviates off. They've had to do a lot of work. Anyway, long story short, what's happening now is El Paso County is in their master plan process for what they want to see happen with Jones Park. So that master plan process is underway right now. The county does their master plans a little different than the city. They are also looking for public input. There's a lot of documents I also include in the show notes a link to that where you can see all the documents and pictures and history, really a lot of information. And they're also looking for public comments. Here's your chance to participate and be a part of this. This is your chance with both the city and county. This is where you get to have your say. Once these master plans are adopted, and the reason why we do master plans is, A, without those, you really can't do anything because you don't have a plan. These parks departments don't do things without a plan. They have to have a plan. And once the plans are adopted, then that becomes their guidebook, their Bible, so to speak, of what we're going to do with this piece of land. So that has to be done. On a bigger scale, back in 2014, the city did a citywide parks master plan. It was a big deal. I remember when that was going on.
Okay.
So that was 10 years ago. Here's the incredible news, and you haven't really heard anybody from the Parks Department tell this. They have accomplished almost everything they set out to accomplish when they did that citywide Parks Master Plan.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Which is pretty damned impressive.
Yeah.
So I think you're going to see in the next year or two another citywide Parks Master Plan process. When the last one happened, it was huge. City auditorium full of people. I mean, I remember being there and being part of it. So those things are going to be going on pretty soon. These are important things. So if you're a park or trail user, especially if these are places you want to visit in the future or you visit them now, I won't say it's your duty to do it, but it's certainly your right to participate, and you're certainly encouraged to participate and have your say. Now, are they going to do everything you want to do? Probably not. That's not the way it works. But I can tell you, being firsthand part of this is both at the city side, now at the TOPS Working Committee and at the county, was on the County Park Advisory Board. They pay attention to the things people say.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Changes have been made to master plans before they were, when they were in draft form, to try to accommodate as much as possible what people want to have happen. There'll be links to these. I highly encourage everybody to be a part of these master plans. It definitely is.
Especially if you love the outdoors and stuff, like it's incredibly important to have your voice be a part of this, because you actually have what's the word I'm trying to think? You have skin in the game.
That's a great way to put it.
And it doesn't matter if you're not a regular hiker in Jones Park, but just your voice alone helps. Even if your big place to hike it's a Blodgett Peak or it's a Palmer Park and stuff, just your voice in the outdoors is generally needed. It's very, very important. I personally love Jones Park. I think it's one of my favorite spots to hike to. It has a lot of history.
It takes a little effort to get there. It's an accomplishment getting up there. It's up there a ways.
It's wild that they originally wanted it to become the next Manitou Springs. Just like that's how ambitious the plans were.
Probably good it didn't happen. Winters get to be a little harsh up there.
Yeah. But yeah, it's a lot of fun to go up there. Like I said, there's a ton of history. There's a lot of trails that are off the main trail that you can find all kinds of remains of cabins and equipment and such.
Yep.
It's just cool, and I think it's great to have a master's plan to help preserve this land that we are very, very lucky to have.
And I'll say one more thing about it too. Even if you really don't have any input, you don't care, or you don't have any skin in the game, or whatever they do, you just decide that whatever they do is fine by you. You just get to learn a lot about the process, about how these parks departments run, and how they go about doing things. And you get to talk to the people firsthand. And I will tell you that the staff at these departments are very accessible. You email them or call them, they do get back to you. But here's a chance to meet them one-on-one, face-to-face, and ask them all the questions you want. So I highly recommend, even if you're like, I don't know if I really have if I care about Jones Park, I have anything to say, if you go there and just learn the process and how funding works and how the master plan process works and the history of a place or the unique features of it, even if nothing else, it's a great educational experience. I'll have links to these on the show notes, so watch out for those. So, Kevin, one other thing I want to talk about is one of our favorite places and the big thing that hangs up over the west side of town here, Pikes Peak. There's the Pikes Peak Highway, which we all know about, and Pikes Peak Highway and the Summit House, the Summit Complex, which if you haven't been to the new one, it's beautiful. It opened up a couple of years ago. So Pikes Peak is run as a city-run enterprise under the Parks Department. So basically, they're not taxpayer supported. They're funded, and there's reasons for that, but they're funded by fees, including on the highway. You pay a fee to get on the highway and drive up to Pikes Peak on that nice fully paved road. I remember when I first got here, the top half of that was not paved.
Oh, so that's right. I forget about that.
It was a little scary driving on this gravelly, slippery road with no guardrails at 12,000 feet and above. But in any case, so as any other places, it's become more popular. The summit of Pikes Peak is very small. If you've never been up there, it is very small. It's amazing. The only way they put a visitor center on it was they hung half of it hanging out off the edge, the edge of the mountain up there. So there's a little bit of parking up there, and the road goes up there. So parking is at a premium up there. So they've instituted a time, we've heard this before, Kevin, let me know if this sounds familiar to you, timed entry and reservation system.
Oh, fun.
To go up there, which starts the end of this May and goes until, I think, the beginning of October, if I remember correctly. So that program is going to be in effect. So basically, May 24th to September 30th, so around Memorial Day till the end of September. There's a fee to go up there, and you'll also have to pay for a timed entry permit. In an effort to not have the summit clogged with cars, they're also putting in a shuttle system. So you can drive to mile marker 7. There'll be a parking lot. And for those who are not sure, it's 20-some-odd miles up to the top of Pikes Peak. It's a long drive up there. Beautiful drive. But it's a long drive up there. It takes a while to get up there. You drive to mile marker 7, you get on a shuttle. You have to reserve a spot on the shuttle, then they take you up to the top. And then you can do whatever you want, get to the next shuttle back and get in your car and go. All sounds well and good. But for recreation purposes, there are some problems. One of which is the shuttle does not stop anywhere in between.
Oh, okay.
Now, you ask yourself, what's in between? Well, there's a number of picnic areas in between. At just below Treeline, there's a place called Glen Cove, which has a nice little shop there and bathroom facilities. It's just kind of a nice place to stretch your legs. Above that is Elk Park, and Kevin, you and I have been to Elk Park. It's right at Treeline. It's where you hike. There's a beautiful hiking trail that takes you all the way around the front of Pikes Peak. Beautiful hike. There's Devil's Playground, which people who listen to this podcast have heard me talk with the people from Rocky Mountain Field Institute about the rebuilding the trail to Devil's Playground. There's a couple of other trailheads up there. And then, of course, there's a summit. So if you're a recreational user and you don't want to drive to the summit, there's a number of reasons why you don't want to drive to the summit. A, you don't want to take up a parking space because they want to leave those open for mostly handicapped users who it's probably better for them to drive up there than it is to take a shuttle, which may not be compatible with whatever devices they may need to get up there. And also you cannot take dogs on, the shuttle and things like that. There's a number of reasons why you may want to take the shuttle. If you want to take the shuttle, you want to get off at Elk Park. You want to get off at Glen Cove. You want to get off at Devil's Playground. You can't if you take the shuttle, which is a problem. And the shuttle leaves, I think the first shuttle leaves at like 9:30, which is really late if you're going to be doing any hiking. Because it's not that it leaves at 9:30, but it might be 10:30 before you get to any place. So there's a number of issues with that, and there was a good article in the Gazette this past week, about this. Talked to a lot of recreational people. This is a flawed system. Now, I know they're trying to manage the 90% of people who just want to get up to the summit of Pikes Peak and coming from all over the world, and you don't want to disappoint them by telling them we have to close the gates. There's too many cars. You want to set up a shuttle system. But this is a flawed system. This is not the best system they could do because it does not stop anywhere. They tell you on there, and I'll have a link to the website for this where you can read all about it, and the timed entry and how it works, and they have a great video and everything. But it's a flawed system. If you're suppose you're a recreational user from out of state, and maybe you're not comfortable driving.
Oh, true, yeah,
all the way up there. You want to be able to get off at Devil's Playground. Because that's a great trail, especially if you go up there and hike down and have somebody pick you up at the Crags Trail. That's a great hike. Or you want to get off at Elk Park, and like you and I did, Kevin, we got dropped off at Elk Park. We hiked all the way around the bar trail, and we hiked bar trail and at bar camp. We stopped in there and chatted with those people, bought T-shirts, all that kind of stuff. T-shirts you can only get at bar camp, and then hiked down and came out in Manitou Springs. If you want to do that stuff and you don't want to drive, which makes sense too, because we did it, we had to be dropped off because we parked our cars at the bottom.
Yep.
If you want to do that, you cannot do it with this shuttle. And it's just like, I don't know the thought process that was behind it, but this is not the best system. And I'm not going to be as mean as some people, and I shouldn't say mean, as critical as some people were in the article in the paper. But this is not the best system they could have done. They need to leave much earlier if they want to accommodate recreational users. Much earlier. They need to make stops along the way. I don't understand why they're not stopping at Glen Cove. They have a nice shop at Glen Cove, and all of a sudden now that shop, they're going to watch the shuttle buses go right by.
Which is weird to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a very, very...
it's a popular place.
Yeah.
And some people just drive as far as Glen Cove, and then they turn around because, they don't want to... Once you get above there, right after that, you're above tree line. And if you're not used to heights and driving at those high-altitude roads, it's not for the squeamish.
Oh, especially after that point... At Glen Cove, that's when it drives you scary.
Yeah,
and I'm talking. I've lived here for 25 plus years. I've done plenty of mountain driving and stuff. But once you get past Glen Cove, that drive gets crazy.
It's white knuckly.
Yeah.
If you want to go up to Bar Camp, for example, now you could do you do Bar Trail because the shuttle will take you to the summit. You can do Bar Trail and hike down. This isn't the best plan, I think, the Parks Department could have, or the Pikes Peak Highway people, it's not the best plan they could have done.
Yeah.
And frequently, and you and I have talked about this with like timed entry plans like at Rocky Mountain National Park and other places, they're not looking at the recreational user who's going to do a long hike. They want to be out there at dark 30.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Which is already hard enough because of what time the highway opens. It's already hard enough. This could have been a better plan. I'm going to try and reach out to the people there and see if I could have a chat with them. But I'm guessing they're hearing from a lot of people who are just not enthused. And a lot of people said, hey, listen, I'll be happy to take the shuttle. I don't want to drive my car up there because I drive my car up there. I got to drive it down. And, at Glen Cove on the way down, Kevin, you may recall this, they actually stop you and check your brakes for the temperature thing because people tend to ride their brakes down and brakes get hot and they don't work. And bad things happen when you're still going down for another 12 miles down the road. So there's a lot of things that happen there that people might, I'll be honest with you, I would be happy to take a shuttle, especially if I'm going to start here and end up somewhere else. I'd rather take the shuttle.
Oh, yeah.
But if you're not stopping, then you're taking away my incentive to use the shuttle that you're trying to use to manage traffic and parking on the peak. This is not a great plan, and I'm hoping they have a couple more weeks before this kicks in. I hope they sit back and go, yeah, we should probably rethink this.
Now, are private shuttles still allowed?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, like the one we took, our friends at Rocky Mountain Ride took us up there and gave us they gave us a ride up there. Great people, and I highly recommend using them. But people coming from out of state may not know that, things like that. I mean, if you can use, those guys to do it, by all means do it. But if you're setting up a shuttle with the intent that you want to alleviate traffic, you shouldn't be bypassing. Now, maybe not every shuttle has to make all the stops. Maybe every 1 out of every 3 would be you'd have like 2 that would be the express straight to the top, and maybe a third one. Every third one would be the one that would stop on the way up and on the way back down at other places to pick people up or drop people off. That'd be fine. I'm sure you don't have to make it so you stop at everyone. On the other hand, how many people out of a shuttle are going to get off at every place?
Yeah.
Probably not that many. Most of them are going to want to get to the top. That's the attraction. That's the big shiny thing, and go up there and see it and then come back down. So there are a number of ways this could be done, I think, and I'm hoping that cooler heads. I'm hoping that they sit back and take a look at this and say, well, maybe we could tweak this a little bit and just be more accommodating to the recreational. You can't bring your bike on the shuttle.
Oh, okay.
So maybe they need to put bike racks on the shuttles. People ride their bikes down. I can't imagine, but people ride their bikes down Pikes Peak. There's a commercial outfit that does that. They bring you up there on with your bike, and then you bike down, or you can do it on your own bike. So there's a couple of things that I'm hoping that they look at with this shuttle plan, that maybe they decide that the shuttle idea is not a bad idea. I just think it needs a little bit of tweaking.
And I can't think of examples right now, but I know this has been done in the past where something like this is proposed, and then after it's in effect for a certain amount of time, then they realize like, oh, actually, we should probably change things around a little bit.
Yeah, and I'm not going to say that there's any ill intent by anybody.
Oh yeah.
On Pikes Peak Highway, Pikes Peak American Mountain. There's no ill intent by anybody there. So I'm hoping that they take the criticism they're hearing and they take it to heart and go, we probably need to maybe take a second look at this. Anyway, if you want your thoughts heard on that, there will be a link again, a link in the show notes to that plan, and I think from there you can find a way to contact Pikes Peak America's Highway. They do fall under the City Parks Department, but they are kind of run fairly autonomously since they are an enterprise. But they do answer to the City Parks Department director, so I think people reached out and said, I think you should tweak this plan a little bit, make it more accommodating to recreational users. They're, like we talked about with the master plan, this kind of falls on the same thing with the master plan. They want to hear what people have to say. And if you just want to go up to the top, I highly recommend doing the shuttle thing. After May 24th, I highly recommend it. You'll have much more fun just taking the ride up there, taking the sights at the summit. The summit house is gorgeous.
Oh, it's incredible.
Make sure you get the special donuts.
Yeah.
And hit number 2, do not bring a dozen donuts down. Think you're going to eat them later because they're made with no preservatives, and by the next day you'll be able to hammer a nail through a 2x4 with them.
Yeah.
Do like I do. Buy half a dozen. By the time you get to the bottom, they're all gone. But the donuts up there are great. It's a great place to visit. Highly recommend visiting. A beautiful spot. But I'm just hoping the administration there kind of rethinks this plan, and it's not a bad plan to start with. It just needs a little tweaking.
Yeah,
to get done. I want to tell the staff they're 90% there. Just need a little more work.
And I think that's the big thing, is to not come out and attack them and stuff, because it's a very common thing to see on comments on articles and stuff. But they're almost there. One
person who was interviewed in the news piece put a thing on their website with a link to it and some discussion. And it was, a lot of stuff, people saying basically the same thing we're saying. This needs a little tweaking. And, of course, there was one person who said, well, you can tell this the Broadmoor had something to do with this. Because, the Broadmoor is a common whipping boy for everything that's wrong. It's like, oh, get over it. In any case, it does need a little tweaking. So take a look at it. And if you think you have some input, or you want to just if you're a recreational user here, if you're coming out to visit and the shuttle sounds like a great deal, except that it doesn't stop where you want to maybe get off, call these people and say, you need to change this. And hopefully they'll make some changes. They got a couple weeks to go before this kicks in, so hopefully they'll rethink this a little bit and make a couple changes to it. Maybe they might not be able to right away when they start this, but hopefully within, pretty soon thereafter. Because they might have to change, how many shuttles they have, how many drivers. They may have to make some changes that may not be stuff they can do right away.
Yeah.
But hopefully they make some, like start earlier. I think when the highway opens, the shuttle should open. And that would be the time to do the early stop at the trailhead shuttle, because us users, us hikers who go up there, it's a long day. If you drive all the way up to Elk Park, which is above tree line, and then hike all the way down to Manitou Springs, that is all day. You and I did it. It is all day. So you want to start early. So maybe the hiker shuttles are the early ones and the late ones. And maybe you have a couple of those in the middle of the day or something, but there's got to be a way to make some changes to this to be more accommodating to the hikers and cyclists or whomever who want to go up there and make these and don't want to drive. I'd be happy not to drive all the way up there. Not that I'm scared of driving up there. It's just like, well, I got to figure out how to get my car back, or it's more wear and tear in my car. You do it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
By the way, I'll be the one sleeping in the back. Wake me up when you get to my stop. So, anyway, so that's enough about that. Kevin, one last thing before we go. Our friends at Trails End Tap Room, great supporters of parks, wonderful bunch of people. They closed. They have two locations, one here in town and one up in Monument. They closed the one here in town in Colorado Springs. Money got a little tight for them. They had bought the old Mason Jar restaurant. They're running a restaurant kind of thing. The good news is, and they said when they closed that they were not closing up for good. They were just taking like the winter off. The good news is this past weekend they reopened.
I saw that, yeah.
What they've done is they've partnered with a popular Mexican restaurant called Felipe's. They are now running the restaurant side of things. Trails End, the guys at Trails End are running the beer side. Basically, and if you're not familiar with Trails End, what they do is they don't make any beer, and they don't sell you bottled beer. They have a wall of taps, and you get a card, and it's all electronically operated. You get a card, you get a glass. You look at the description. They have everything from ciders to some mixed drinks and wines, but in the middle they've got all these different beers. And you put your card on there, it turns on the tap, you pour a little bit, you try it. If you like it, you pour some more. And then you can order some food from the restaurant that's all connected to them. But they reopened this weekend. I was over there, I had a little bit of beer. My diet doesn't allow me to have much beer anymore. But I had a little bit of beer. I chatted with the owners. The owners there, they were great. They're a great bunch of people. I normally don't talk about about businesses on here. The only reason why I am talking about them is because they're structured as a... and I forget the exact heading under the IRS, but they're structured to be a support.
I'm forgetting.
I forget. You know what I'm talking about. So they're not a for-profit business. Their structure is that they are a community supporting business.
But they're not nonprofit. They're like in between.
Yeah. They have to, under the IRS rules, they fall under, provide a lot of money and support to nonprofits and outdoor and. So anyway, that's the only reason why I talk about it. I know a lot of businesses say, why don't you talk about us? Well, you can buy ad time. But these guys, and they're a great bunch of guys. They're very supportive. So good news is Trails End Tap Room is open. This is a local business, a local entity that supports the outdoor recreation a lot. And they could use your support. So if you want to try a new beer.
Time.
What I like about them is you can find some kind of weird, rare, esoteric beers. And maybe you go to the store and you have to buy a 6-pack, and I've had it happen. You buy a 6-pack and go, this I don't like. Maybe that is not a good beer. It's just not the beer you like. There you can try it out. You can pour just as much as you want in a glass. Like, hey, I like this. I'll pour a whole glass of it and try it. And just really great people. So they're open.
It's a great way to, you got to try out beers, drinks. They have, like Bob says, ciders and wine. They have seltzers.
Yep.
And I have not had the chance to try their food, or their new food. So I'm really, really excited to stop by and check that out. Yeah,
so give them a check out, and by all means support them. They're a really good bunch of people. Kevin, I don't have anything else. Do you have anything else you want to talk about?
Another thing about Trails End is one of the owners' name is Kevin, so I'm a huge fan, like from the get go. So yeah.
and way back, I had Kevin on the podcast when they opened up, talked about how their business is structured. So if you want to go back,
right, yeah.
If I remember, I'll put a link to that in the podcast, and you can understand what I'm talking about how they're structured to support the community and why. That's the only reason, one of the few reasons I'm actually talking about a private business on here. Otherwise, I typically don't. But in any case, check them out. I'll put a link in there. Kevin, anything else?
I think I'm good. Yeah.
Well, Kevin, good to see you again.
You too. Yeah.
I was telling Kevin earlier, there's a book I'm reading that I'm very excited about, and I'm working on having the author on the podcast, which hopefully will happen in the next few weeks. Keep an ear out for that. In the meantime, I guess I'll have Kevin back on here. And we hope to have I hinted at the beginning of the year there are going to be some changes to the podcast, probably starting in June. I'm still mulling over which direction we're going, and hopefully we'll have an announcement on that in the next couple of weeks. So stay tuned for that. In the meantime, if you're a supporter with Patreon, thank you for your continued support. I hope that you continue to support as we move along. And with that, everybody, we'll say thanks for listening to the Outdoors Hiking Bob podcast.
We'll talk to you later.
See ya.